Welcome back to Cheddar's Opening Bell. Election Day is upon us, and several online platforms are preparing for dis- and misinformation attacks on their sites in the wake of the results. Here to talk all about it is Ryan Merkley, Wikimedia Foundation's Chief of Staff. Okay, Ryan, just to start with, we say misinformation, we talk disinformation. What exactly does that mean, and what are some examples of a misinformation or disinformation attack?
So when we talk about disinformation, what we mean is coordinated attempts to misinform the public, to get people to think about something that is incorrect, or to get people to do something based on false information. And that disinformation means a coordinated attempt. When we talk about misinformation, what we really mostly mean is when those attempts are successful and well-meaning folks who actually believe that information spread it even further.
And what about, we've seen, for example, Twitter and Facebook slap some labels on even the president's tweets or his posts. Where does that fall into if an official themselves is spreading misinformation or disinformation?
Mis and disinformation can come from anywhere. The important thing is whether or not that source is verifiable, whether the facts are reliable facts. It's less about where it comes from and more about what is the impact that's intended from that information.
Okay, so what kind of risk does this pose to Wikipedia?
So Wikipedia has become one of the most trusted websites on the internet. It's a place people are coming to every day in the hundreds of millions looking for answers to things that they will use to decide their everyday lives, whether it's COVID or whether it's today's election. So we take that as a public trust. We're also part of a knowledge ecosystem. The content that is on Wikipedia is often reused by other sites. So if you ask Alexa a question, it's often answering with information pulled straight from Wikipedia. Or if you do a Google search in the sidebar when you see other information, a lot of that is pulled straight from Wikipedia. So if it's wrong on our platform, it could be wrong everywhere. And we care very deeply about getting that right.
So what are you doing to make sure that that information is correct, and especially now surrounding this election, that misinformation or disinformation doesn't get spread?
Yeah. I like to say that Wikipedia has been fighting disinformation for 2 decades. We'll celebrate our 20th birthday next year. And Wikipedia is a nonprofit and a volunteer-led project where everybody in the world can contribute to that. So the number one defense against disinformation is volunteers showing up every day, editing those articles. Over 50 million articles worldwide, 300 plus languages. That's at the core of what we do. And every day volunteers root out bad information and make sure that what's there is reliably sourced and available to everybody. A thing that's very different about Wikipedia is that it is radically open and transparent. When you look at the article, you can also see every single edit that has been made. You can see the history. And so there's an accountability behind each article. And there's also what's called a talk page, which is really just the place where editors can discuss the things they don't yet agree on. It's a place where they debate the things that perhaps don't seem reliable, whether that's a source or whether that's the content that's being submitted, whether it's being presented in a neutral way. And they have those debates in public. And so you can go back and see that. So there's an accountability that is not found in some other places that allow them to root that out. We also have a U.S. election task force that we put together over the last number of months to make sure that all of our processes to support those volunteers are as tight as they can be so that our response times are very, very short, and so that we can make sure that if there is a coordinated attempt to misinform the public, that the volunteers and the staff at the foundation who support them are teed up to respond as quickly as possible.
If someone were to spot some type of misinformation or disinformation, what should they do?
So one of the things that's so great about Wikipedia is that anybody can edit and contribute. And on every single article, there's an edit button, and there's also a talk page. And so if someone sees something that they think is incorrect or is not properly sourced or is misinformation, they can comment right into the system And there are armies of editors who are there working every day, trying to respond to those things and review them. And so we encourage folks to volunteer and to join, to contribute.
It is incredible. In what context is there misinformation or disinformation? Because obviously Wikipedia is so different from a social media platform. It isn't social media. Would it be if somebody was looking up, like, just say you looked up Joe Biden, that perhaps there was wrong information about him under his name? Where would even misinformation be?
You're right. We are a different platform. Wikipedia is a nonprofit. We don't have ads, and there's no algorithms on the back end that people can game in order to make sure that their content reaches people more than others. People come looking for information, and the platform serves it up exactly as they ask for it. And as I said earlier, it's radically open, so people can see everything that's going on under the hood. What we've seen in the disinformation space is attempts to insert false information into articles that might cause people to believe things that are not the case. For example, just in your previous segment, questions about whether my vote will be counted, or whether if the election is not decided on election night, if we don't have those results, if that means something nefarious is going on. And attempts to mislead voters into thinking that perhaps it's not safe to vote, voter suppression, that the results are not reliable because of insertion of facts that imply that's the case if that's not true. That's disinformation. That's causing people to think something that isn't the case in order to cause them to behave differently, to not vote, or to not believe the results of a legitimate election. And so we want to prevent that. To answer your question, that could appear in many places. It could appear on the article on the U.S. presidential election. It could appear in articles about individual candidates. It could appear anywhere. And there are 6 million articles in English Wikipedia alone on every topic. So it could appear anywhere at any time.
All right, Ryan Merkley, Chief of Staff of the Wikimedia Foundation. Really great to have you on, especially on this election day. Thank you.